The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. A leper came to Jesus and kneeling down begged him and said, "If you wish, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand, touched him and said to him, "I will do it. Be made clean." Leprosy left him immediately and he was made clean. Then warning him sternly, he dismissed him at once. He said to him, "See that you tell no one anything, but go show yourself to the priest and offer for your cleansing what Moses prescribed. That will be proof for them." The man went away and began to publicize the whole matter. He spread the report abroad so that it was impossible for Jesus to enter a town openly. He remained outside in deserted places, and people kept coming to him from everywhere. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Okay. Who was paying attention last week? How many hands? You know, last week we heard about the sufferings of Job. He thought he'd never see happiness again in his life, but somehow he hung on to his faith in God and bore his sufferings. He kept going. Our first reading today, we hear of suffering of a different kind. Those stricken with leprosy not only had to bear their disease, but they had to bear being permanent outcasts from society, separated from virtually all human contact. In those days, leprosy was feared, hated. It was beyond all understanding, beyond any remedy. No one knew where leprosy came from or how it spread. The only thing they knew to do was to isolate the person that had it, to condemn them to a lifetime alone. To be a leper was to be alienated from society, ostracized, spurned, avoided, shunned by everyone. Jewish law even said that if a leper dared to approach anyone, they should be stoned. They lived outside the community in an enforced lifetime of solitude, knowing that it would never end. Certainly a form of hell on earth. But what if today we think of that type of leprosy as being like sin? Leprosy separates us and isolates us from other people. Sin isolates us and separates us from God. Now, in my view, permanent separation from other people sometimes might not be that unbearable. But permanent separation from God, that is worse than unbearable. Sin is more awful than even leprosy was perceived in the Old Testament. For the last 2 Sundays, we've heard of sick people. People sick in body and mind being brought to Jesus to be healed. No one but Jesus could heal lepers. All who needed healing turned to Him. In our gospel today, the leper, forbidden from approaching anyone, approached Jesus. Instead of shunning Him, instead of stoning Him, Jesus reached out His hand and touched him. Jesus extends mercy and compassion to him and heals him. And what did Jesus get for showing the power of God? In a way, He exchanged places with the leper. The leper who had lived outside, looking in, now that he was healed, could rejoin the community, rejoin his family. But Jesus, who had lived in community, surrounded by people, now he couldn't enter a town openly. Had to remain outside in deserted places. But they still sought Him out. People still came to Jesus. sort of like being so different, being so alone. Jesus, even when he told the leper not to go out and tell anybody, to keep it between us, that leper proclaimed to everyone what had happened, shared his good news. Jesus, remember, told him, do the prescribed thing. Go visit the priest. Now, if we look at leprosy and sin, this analogy can come together for us. And even though sins are forgiven, we still need to help ourselves through the healing power of the sacraments. We still need to present ourselves to the priest in reconciliation. That second reading even suggests to us that we need to be like that leper, to turn to Jesus for healing, to let Jesus touch us, to turn to Him in that sacrament for healing, to emulate Him, so that the glory of God and the love of God may be made visible. Jesus can heal us, but we have to ask ourselves the question, do we really want to be healed? There's a story I found about a man who was losing his hearing. He goes to the doctor and tests him and asks him, how much have you been drinking? The man says, about a pint a day. Doctor tells him, well, stop drinking and come back in 2 months. Well, after the first month, the man's hearing got better. But when he returned to the doctor after the second month and the doctor tested him again, his hearing was just as bad as it was before. The doctor asked him, did you stop drinking like I told you? And the man said, well, I tried it for a month and my hearing got better. But I think I like the way I feel after drinking the pint a lot better than I feel after some of the things that I was hearing. We're a bit like that man. Deep down, we really don't want to be healed. There's some things we'd rather not hear, especially if it means opening ourselves to the wounds and hurts of others. We'd rather stay isolated from God rather than facing our own shortcomings and approaching our Lord for forgiveness through the sacrament of reconciliation. This year, Lent starts Wednesday. Period. 40 days of penitence. But this year, Lent starts on February 14th, Valentine's Day. And this year, Valentine's Day is a day of fasting and abstinence. You've been warned. But we can take advantage of this coincidence and reclaim a much deeper meaning of love than just candy hearts or chocolates. Have your special dinner on Tuesday evening and let Lent begin on Ash Wednesday. Reach out to Jesus and He will teach you the meaning of love through prayer, fasting, and generosity. Now, you may feel reluctant to let Jesus touch you, but come to Mass Wednesday. Mass is at 10 and 7. Receive that cross of ashes on your forehead. Tell the world that you're Christian. Say to Jesus, if you want to, you can make me clean. Allow Jesus to touch you. I will do it, He says. Be made clean.